Again, just what's it like to be back in Mobile?
It's great to be back in Mobile. I was telling Melissa, I said, it's kind of you're you're doing so many things, getting prepared for the season and getting ready to go, and all of a sudden you hit a bye week, and there's other things, obligations and recruiting, and then certainly an opportunity to come down here and speak. And I thought, man, I'm going to Mobile today, so it's really enjoyable to be back here. I miss this place in so many ways. So many great friends, great memories. It's always hard, right, when you pick your family up in a place that was so supportive, so great to us, and a place that that we really call home now. So it's great to be back and spend a little bit of time here. Unfortunately, we'll be kind of in and out today, but certainly enjoy the memories and get a chance to see some friends and spend some time with people for a minute.
What's the transition been like?
It's been a whirlwind 9 months. We there's so much to get done when you're building a football program, and when Coach Saban walked out the door in January, and in comes Kalen DeBoer, and then the rest of us as a coaching staff. There's so many things that you have to identify to figure out. Okay, what are the pieces that we keep of this program? And certainly there's so many attributes and from a success standpoint that they've had, but also what do we make authentically Kalen DeBoer's? And so figuring those pieces out, little things even from going from an afternoon practice team to a morning practice team and getting our players accustomed to all those things, retaining your players, introducing new scheme, building a recruiting for the next 2 classes coming up. All those things have to be done in a short amount of time, and I think Coach DeBoer has done a really tremendous job of really cutting out the things that so that we can keep the main thing over the first 9 months here. And I think it's given us a chance to go win football games here in the fall. And certainly I think we're off to a good start. There's plenty of things to fix, and there's a lot of things that have to get done on this bye week as we move into SEC play. But I've really enjoyed the transition of being a defensive coordinator again. I missed calling plays, and I forgot. I told Melissa after the first night against Western Kentucky, we're rocking and rolling. You lay down in bed and you go, man, I forgot how much I enjoyed calling football plays again. So that's been a fun addition.
What can you do in Alabama that you couldn't do somewhere else?
Well, I think I think one of the great things about being at Alabama, and certainly there's been many great coaches over the years that have set this program on a trajectory that we are now, but Coach Saban certainly as much as anybody. Everyone in our building is committed to becoming the best version of themselves at what they do, from a resource standpoint, from a talent standpoint. Certainly the support systems that we have, starting with Greg Byrne and our athletic director, and it filters through every support position, coaching member, player. We're all striving to become the best versions of ourselves, and when you do that with the talent and resources that we have, you have an opportunity to do some really special things on a football field. And so I think certainly the sky's the limit, but the expectation is that we find a way to get those things done, and so that's what we work for day in and day out.
You saw Ryan Williams a lot, obviously, at the high school level. What's it like to be on his team now and see him up close every day?
Ryan, it's fun for me, specifically seeing young men from Mobile accomplish things at a really high level. I've got to see Ryan as a young player, and people start talking about him in this community, and then all of a sudden, you start hearing him in the college football world and then on the national level. And it was very evident when Ryan walked in the door in summer workouts that this young man has something special about him. And I've been so impressed by how consistent he is, his ability to retain information in our offense. We do a lot of things offensively. We put a lot on those guys from receiving core, and he's been able to really retain those things. He's been able to hold those things, and when he makes a mistake, he's been able to fix it and then keep that correction moving forward. And then, when the ball comes his way, he's a playmaker, and we all know that in Mobile, but I think the rest of the country's starting to figure that out. And certainly glad that he's on our side and that we don't have to defend him on Saturdays.
Speaking of guys from Mobile, what have you seen from Deontay Lawson these first couple games?
You know, Deontay has been so impressive to me. I think his elite skill set is his ability to communicate, to anticipate what is coming, diagnose, and then get that communicated to the rest of the players on the field. You know, this is the first year that we've had the green dot communication where we can now communicate to somebody on the field via wireless communication. And so he's really my voice on the field. He's my guy that can communicate what needs to happen on this upcoming play. Defense is inherently reactionary, right? When the offense comes out in a personnel formation, backfield set, whatever it is, and the defense reacts to it. When you have a player like Deontay Lawson, we can play with anticipation. He can recognize formations, backfield sets, situational awareness so that we can play with anticipation. That's the difference between, a PBU and an interception. It's a difference between a quarterback hurry and a sack cost fumble. And I think his ability to communicate to some of these younger players has made the difference over the first 3 games.
Malachi Moore, an extension of you on the field as well. We've seen him be very energetic with some of the players during the sidelines or on the sidelines as well as in the game. Talk about his influence on your team as well.
Yeah, Malachi, he has seen a lot of football. He has, I've said this before, experience is finite in college football. There's only 11 bodies that can represent your defense, offense, special teams on any given moment in the season. And so their ability to utilize the experience of a guy like Malachi for players, particularly on our back end defensively, that lack experience. They're true freshmen. They're coming out for the very first time playing. And I think they would not be able to do what they are doing without the experience of a guy like Malachi that can help communicate some of the things and again, play with anticipation. Deontay Lawson, Malachi Moore, those guys have played a lot of football. And those players we're able to kind of rely a little bit on their experience, even for the players that don't have that experience right now. And so, Malachi sets the standard for what it's supposed to look like. He's probably our hardest worker in practice day in and day out. He knows what it's supposed to look like. He's been in those tough, difficult moments. And certainly his leadership is something that we lean on day in and day out.
You got a couple other South Alabama guys on your staff, Coach Hidd and then Freddie Roach. Just what it's been like to work with those guys?
Yeah, it's fun. I never got a chance to work with Freddie when I was at South Alabama, but certainly have known him over the years and have tremendous respect for him. I think he gets his guys to play so hard. He's a tremendous recruiter. He's a great teacher and creates a lot of buy-in in his room. And those guys have tough jobs. They're going up against the best offensive lines in the country and the best backfields and some quarterbacks that really know how to navigate the pocket. And so he's done a really tremendous job over his last few years at Alabama, and we were fortunate enough to be able to retain him on staff. And then you've got guys like Colin Hitchler that, Colin is one of the best game day minds that I've been around, and I've been around a number of great, defensive minds over the years. But my dad told me this a long time ago: if you're going to call plays on the field, you better have somebody great up in the box, or vice versa. And Colin is really that person up there in the box that is able to see things, communicate things. We did that for 2 years together in the Sun Belt at South Alabama when I was a defensive coordinator, and it's kind of fun getting the band back together, doing it now in the SEC.
You talked about resources at Alabama. Have you had that moment to where it's just like, wow, this is a big time program. This is the top of the heap. Can you just tell us anything about that coaching at Alabama?
Well, I think the level of urgency and every aspect of our program is very evident. Whether it's nutrition, getting a guy to stay on point from a body weight standpoint, in the weight room, in the training room. In every area, there's an urgency to make sure that we maximize the value for our program and to do what's best for our young men. But I'll never forget the first week that I was there. There were some things that I wanted to change in our defensive staff room, put some graphics on the walls, and we were going to have recruits in there. And so I'm kind of giving some of those things to Ellis Ponder, our chief of staff. And I think within 45 minutes, there were 14 maintenance workers in that room ripping stuff off the walls. They had renderings of what they wanted to do within 36 hours, and that thing was just about done in a week and a half. So there's just an urgency to get things done at a high level. And when you have people that do that, you can allow young men to strive to become the best versions of themselves.
Now that the season's actually underway, are you still talking to Coach Saban? What's that relationship like?
Yeah, Coach Saban has been a tremendous resource to me, one that, I didn't realize when I took the job how much access he would allow, and he's been really helpful for me to kind of lessen the learning curve from what they have done defensively over the last 17 years to what we're going to do defensively. There's similarities in those things, but also some things that have really helped for me to understand why he did things the way he did them, and it's allowed me to make tweaks within our defense that I think is most advantageous for our players. So we met again as early this morning, spent time together, and he's been really great and just a huge support system for me and the rest of the defense.
With y'all on this bye week, what do the next couple weeks look like getting ready for the Georgia game?
Well, I think there's so many things that you got to do to get ready, in a bye week to prepare your team heading into SEC play. So, I think each bye week it can be self-serving for your defense and your offense, for your special teams across the board based upon what you need. So we've got 3 games now that we can say, okay, we can self-scout. Some guys need to get healthy. There's certain things that we've identified that we need to get better at. There's certain things that we recognize that we're becoming, efficient at as a defense or an offense that maybe we want to focus on a little bit more. And so there's a lot of things to get done. There's a lot of work to identify who you are, right? What is your identity as a football team? And then what you need to do moving forward, right, to navigate your way into the SEC. And so certainly a lot of work to be done. It is not an off week by any stretch. It is a bye week, and it's an opportunity to make this team better, and I think everybody's kind of got an urgency to do that right now in our building.
Can you talk a little about recruiting the Gulf Coast and why it's still important to you up there?
Well, I think, if you look at this, our program specifically, some of the best players in Alabama's history have come from this area. And we're, right now is no different with, young men like Deontay Lawson and Ryan Williams. And for us to be able to get the best players out of the state of Alabama is certainly going to be a priority for us, and something that we're going to make sure that we always focus on, particularly in this area. I think Jim Nagy said it maybe a year ago. I think the best, per capita, there's more players in the NFL right now than anywhere else in the country, and I think that speaks to the level of talent in this area, the level of coaching, the love of the game of football is very evident in the high schools around this area, and certainly we want to make sure that we tap into that in our past and certainly moving forward in our future.
What's an early assessment of Georgia? They had played Kentucky a close ball game. I mean, what happened in those couple of weeks where Kentucky slowed them down? Well,
I think when you look at Georgia, obviously they've had a tremendous success. I think when you look at regular season games, I mean, they've won a tremendous amount over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, they've had a lot of success. They play great defense, very opportunistic, very attacking style, aggressive from a defensive standpoint. I think from an offensive standpoint, they've had a quarterback in Carson Beck that can attack you laterally and vertically. They've got offensive skill players that create one-on-one matchups and space issues in terms of tackling. They've got an offensive line that can create, force double teams, and so they present a lot of challenges in a number of different areas. But when you look at it at the end of the day, it's really college football is about who wants it more on that given Saturday. And so what we've talked to our players about is they're going to do things schematically. We're going to do things schematically that put us in the best advantage to win the game. But ultimately, the ball is going to get spotted, and whoever wants it more, whoever's going to play the most physical in that moment is going to win the game. And so sometimes I think keeping the main thing in games like this is really important. Getting our guys to lean into how hard they have to play, how hard they have to, push in the moment to be able to come out successfully.
Your assessment of the sack that LT Overton had last week, was he out of position, and that really hard sack he had against Wisconsin?
I don't know if he was out of position. I'll never say a guy's out of position when he has a sack like that. I think LT Overton continues to show up in a major way. He's a really tremendous on-ball rusher, first and second down pass rush. He's very physical at the point of attack in the run game, but he does a really tremendous job of being able to transition pass rush and to be able to affect the quarterback on first and second down. Does a great job with his hand placement, very physical, and he's created a lot of production for our defense so far. So we've got a number of guys that are doing some really good things up front on the defensive line, but we have to continue to work in order to maximize the production for our defensive line, both in the run game and in pass production on first and second down. And then, we always tell our guys, you earn the right on third down, right, to be able to go affect the quarterback in the rush game. And I think our guys are taking steps in the right direction. We're not all the way there yet, but certainly moving in the right direction.
Guys, let's wrap this up here shortly. Just no more questions, whatever
Yep.
you want to do, Coach.
Yep.
That's good, Coach. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.